Good afternoon, class. As you guys know, my name is Mr. Fisher, and this week we're going to be working on muscular endurance. Now, before I get into all the demonstrations, let me go over the exercise that we're going to be doing today. Our first exercise, we're going to be starting with wide grip push-ups. Then we're going into narrow grip push-ups. Then we're going to sit-ups, dips, and then we're going to be going into decline push-ups. Now, some of the exercises that we're going to be doing today, some of the muscle groups that we're going to be hitting, we're going to be hitting the delts, we're going to be hitting the biceps, hitting the triceps, some core, and we're also going to be hitting our pectoralis major. Now, before we get into all the demonstrations, it's important that all of you guys know the proper form, and I'll go over the proper form in the demonstrations. But if you guys don't have proper form, not having proper form can lead to some joint injuries, muscle strain, and it could also lead to worse injuries down the road. My expectations for today is that you're able to get 5 more reps than we did the last week of a specific exercise. And I think that's all, so let's get into demonstrations. Alright, class, let's get into our first demonstration. Our first exercise that we're going to be doing is our wide grip push-ups. Now, during this wide grip push-ups, we're going to be hitting a lot of muscles. We're going to be hitting our biceps, our triceps, our anterior deltoids, which is the front of our shoulder. We're going to be hitting our pectoralis major, which is our chest. We're also going to be hitting abdominal muscles. Now, when you're starting out, your hands are going to be a little bit wider than shoulder width apart. When you get into ready position, your hands are going to be a little bit wider than your shoulders, and your back, butt, legs, and upper back should all be in a line, like this. And also, when you're doing your push-up, your rep should be completed just about when your chest is about 4 inches off the ground, or when your bicep and your forearm make a 90-degree angle. And I'll show a different view of what that looks like. And let me do the demonstration. My core is nice and tight. Everything's in a nice line. We're going to go down, and go up. Down, my elbows are at a 90-degree angle. I'm just going to push up. Now, if you can't do a push-up, there is an accommodation. You're just going to be doing the same thing, and you could have your knees on the ground to support. And this will be the beginning of developing your muscles. And this is what that would look like from this angle. Now, I'm not sitting back. My legs are going forward a little bit. And my chest starts out behind my hands. And then at the end of the push-up, my chest should be in line with my hands. Now let's look at that from a different angle. Alright, now this is our push-up from a different view. Now, as you can see, my hands are, hopefully they're in screen, but they're slightly wider than my shoulders. Now when I go down, my arm's going to be at a 90-degree, and that's when I know I complete my rep. And if you're doing it with your knees down, this is what that would also look like. One more time with my knees up. I tuck my shirt in so you can see that my legs are in a straight line. Alright, for our next exercise, we're going to be working on our narrow grip push-ups. Now, the difference between our narrow grip push-ups and our wide grip push-ups. In our wide grip push-ups, we're going to be working more of our bicep. In our narrow grip push-ups, we'll be working more of our tricep. Now, Another difference is in our wide grip push-ups. Our elbows are going to be outward, and in our narrow grip push-ups, our hands are more directly beneath our shoulders, shoulder width apart, and our elbows are going to be going backwards towards our feet. Now this is what that's going to look like. My hands are shoulder width apart. My stomach and my legs are nice and flat in a straight line. Hands are shoulder width apart. And same rule applies when my chest is about 4 inches above the ground. Then I can complete my wrap and push up. Here's a couple reps. Now, if you're developing your muscles and you'd like to keep your knees down, this is what that is going to look like. Chest 4 inches above the ground, push up. Elbows are back towards my feet. We're not creating that 90-degree angle anymore, but our elbows are backward more. Now from the front view, so this would be our wide grip push-up, and then for our narrow, our hands are going to be below my shoulders, and my elbows are going back. Now this exercise is a little bit more difficult than our wide grip push-up, so you need to be careful that you're not arching your back. When your muscles tend to get sore, your stomach might dip, and notice how my back is not straight. Now if you're gonna put your knees down, developing your muscles, that's fine. This is what that is going to look like. Chest is about 4 inches above the ground and push up. And elbows are going towards the feet. And let's move on to our next exercise. The next exercise that we're going to be doing is sit-ups. Sit-ups is strictly going to be working on our core. Now in the visual aid in Google Classroom that I put up, the diagram or model has the hands down to the floor, and then you're going to go up past your knees, but in this case we're going to have our arms crossed, touching our opposite shoulder. We're going to be going up, engaging our core. We're going to try and keep our back flat rather than curving. When we're curving, we're not engaging as much core. Now when we keep it flat, this is also easier if you have a weight or something heavier putting down your feet. Because when you do sit-ups alone, your feet are gonna move upward, and it's hard to keep them down. So if you have something heavy to put your feet underneath, that's a good idea. But I have my hands crossed on the opposite shoulder, and once my elbows touch my knees, then you can go back down. And it's also a good idea to do on a mat or a carpet. The wood floor can hurt your spine, so it's better to do on a carpet or a blanket. But once my elbows reach my knees, then I can go back down. And for all these exercises, we're going to be doing 3 sets of 7 reps, and we're just going to be focusing on getting 100 reps, which is easy peasy for you guys. One more time. Elbows to the knees, trying to keep our back flat and engaging as much core as possible. Notice, I don't know if you can tell, but when I was engaging my core, my right foot did come up a little bit. But that is rep. Now from the front, I don't want to bang my head on the wall, and my elbows are on my knees, and that is rep. Also, while we're doing core, or doing our sit-ups, the reason we have our hands by our shoulders is to decrease the amount of swing going into our sit-up. If we have our hands, up by our head, you could easily swing them forward, and that will help you complete the rep. But we're trying to engage as much core as possible, and that's why we're keeping our hands on our shoulders. Now this is about as much swing as you're going to get. And it's not a lot, but do your best to try not to swing and engage as much core as possible. Alright, for our next exercise, we're going to be doing dips, which also focuses on the triceps. Now you could take any chair that you have in your house, you could use your couch, but for this case I'm going to be using this chair. To start off, all we're going to be doing is we're going to be putting our palms on the corner of the chair, and we're going to step off, and when we're starting off, our legs are going to be straight. If our legs are like this, then we're not engaging as much tricep because we have our legs to support us. When our legs are farther out, then we use more tricep. Now, when we're doing this, when we come down, our elbow, just like in our wide grip push-up, our elbow and our forearm are going to be about 90 degrees. Now let me show you what that looks like from the front. My elbows are going to come out. They're not going directly back, because then you're going to hurt yourself. Now with our dips, if you're developing your muscles, then yes, you could start out like this, go light, and as you get more comfortable, you could slowly move your feet outward, and that will engage more and more tricep. And then finally to your heels. Good workout, good workout. Another accommodation that you can make when you're doing your dips, not the same chair, but with that slightly higher up because of the arms. But the higher up you start your dip up from, you're still going to be engaging your tricep, but the rep is going to be a little bit easier because your legs are going to be closer to your center of mass. Now this is with the higher chair. Notice I'm not down here, and I'm keeping my legs straight. Also, when you're doing your dips, make sure that the item or chair or couch that you are doing your dips on is sturdy, because we don't want to be doing our dips and then it slides back, and that's another way we can hurt ourselves. But like I said, start out, if you'd like, you could have your legs close to you and then move them out as you get more comfortable and stronger. Let's move on to our last exercise. Now for our last exercise, we're going to be doing our decline push-up. This decline push-up is going to be working on our delts, our biceps, triceps, a little bit of chest, and definitely core. This is similar to our wide grip push-ups. Now, for our decline push-ups, our feet here are going to be elevated. Now you could put them up on top of the couch, you could put them up on a chair, and the higher your feet are going to be, the higher your feet go up, the more shoulder and the harder the rep is going to be, the more shoulder muscle that you're going to use. Now, for our, make sure your item that you're using is also sturdy. You do not want anyone getting hurt, but you want to put your feet up. They could be laying down, or you can keep them pointed. But our side back a little bit. Our hands are going to be, again, a little bit wider than shoulder width apart. And we're going to be trying to get our bicep and our forearm to 90 degrees in order to get our full rep. You can put a pillow or blanket by your head just in case if you're not confident with your skill, but that's okay. If you don't feel comfortable doing decline, you can stick to wide grip and you can just do extra reps and extra sets. But that is the decline push-up from this angle. And remember, forearm, bicep, 90 degrees, slightly wider than shoulder width apart. And you're going to complete your rep once you're 90 degrees or about 4 inches. Now let me show you that from a different angle. Alright, this is our decline push-up from the front view. Again, our hands are more than shoulder width apart. And you're going to try and keep your legs and chest in a straight line. You're going to be bending your elbows outward, trying to create that 90-degree angle. Now, if you're still developing your skill, that's okay too. You can just move up on your chair, couch, or bed. Rather than hanging on my ankles, you could hang on your knees or your hips, depending how much you're developing your muscles. Now for this demonstration, I'm on my knees, and I'm going to be doing the same thing, 90 degrees, pressing. Let me show you that from a different angle quick. Knees are up, hands are more than shoulder width apart, and our elbows are going outward. Alright class, now that we're all done with the demonstrations, wish all of you the best of luck. Also, just to engrave it in the back of your head, make sure you have good form. I don't want to see any injuries. If you do have an existing injury or a joint begins to hurt while you're doing an exercise, try some of the accommodations that I made. If your muscle or joint still hurts after making the accommodations, then you can try doing a different exercise. You could email me. Rather than working on upper body, you could perhaps do some squats, or I can just suggest some exercise for you. Also, I attached a exit slip on Google Classroom. Once you've done all the exercises, just go into Google Classroom. There's a little exit slip. It has it's a checklist, and you just put an extra check mark next to the boxes that you have completed. Other than that, class, I know you're gonna kill it on these exercises, and hope you all have a great day, and I can't wait to see you for the next class. Muscular endurance.